SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity.
What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Hey, Jeep family, we hope that you're enjoying this content, and we want to make sure that we're running
Technical
ads.
difficulties.
Technical difficulties to start.
New year, new us, same old crap shenanigans.
So we will not be running a commercial today because I just deleted it instead of stopping it.
Darn it, Jeff.
Jeffrey, the Italian stallion, the producer, just deleted our commercial for the day. That is amazing. That's a great way to start 2023.
Obviously, we need a new commercial for 23 now.
Oh, right.
Yep, we do.
All right, well, you know what? I'm going to do I'm going to do it anyways. Here we go. Here we are. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast. I am your host, Neil, with, I can't wait, what you're giggling about over there, with SFJ4x4.com, Simpson Family Jeeps, and joining, as usual, every day, the lovely...
Mad scientist Scott Brown / restoration guy, I guess I'll say, since I've been busy.
He's on adrenaline right now, folks.
Yeah,
He's
excited.
I'm sipping. I'm caffeinated, and he's
got my water.
You got water in your official SFJ mug, and then if you're joining us on the live or even on the old YouTube and you're physically watching this go down, you'll notice that we have a slightly new setup. When we had conceptualized the setup, I thought I was going to be staring longingly into Scott's beautiful brown eyes.
No, doesn't even know what color my eyes are.
Anyway,
instead I gotta look at Jeff, and he's not pretty enough for this.
Oh boy.
and Jeff is on camera fully now. If you ever wondered what
He
Jeff
thinks it's
was,
still Christmas.
well, you can still celebrate Christmas up to about 2 weeks into January.
It's
Yeah.
Gremlins. I
It
don't
gets
care.
more
It doesn't
awkward.
have to be Christmas.
And if you ever wondered what Jeff looked like, I'm sorry, you can now see him. So he's on camera.
so
go ahead.
those comments. First thing was Chuck saying "Happy New Shit," and then my wife chimed in. It's stage fright. He made an oops.
It's stage fright.
Yep. So
And if you've watched it any times where Jeff has been the fill-in on the
it's awkward.
the podcast, it is awkward.
And he has the
It's
most stage
experience,
Of
right?
the three of us.
It's
I think.
literally
It's between you two. I went away from a stage as far as possible.
yeah, well, right, but Jeffrey literally kind of
Didn't
semi-professionally
he do theater?
did production.
But I ran behind stage and worked backstage after like 2 years of doing the theater side of it.
yeah.
I was like, nope, I belong backstage.
Yeah, you do. You got that. All right. Well,
That's how we start the new year.
that is how we're going to start the new year.
Bus fired up already.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it is 2023, January 2. This is episode 56. If this is your first time joining us,
That was
which
episode 1.
Well, 56, season 3 though.
Oh, okay.
Episode 56 overall.
we could really upchurch this and season 3, episode 1.
That's what I thought we were doing.
Oh my goodness. Scott's ready to polish this up.
No, we're running our total episode count.
That's
Oh,
our
okay.
total episode count. So number 56. And if this is your first time joining us in your ear holes on your favorite streaming platform, we thank you for joining us. Otherwise, obviously, if this is not, you can join us live, obviously at 10:19 a.m. nearly every single Monday, and then on podcast. On YouTube, on our podcast channel, the I Speak Jeep podcast channel,
Needs more coffee.
He does.
on Friday. Yeah, man, I'm
We
feeling it.
gotta
I
get him
had
a bigger cup.
that's probably part of the issue. Is this is the little cup?
It is.
Yeah, we need to get some bigger SFJ mugs.
I have the this is like the 12 ounce, and I have like the 14 or 16 ounce. That's my
Yeah.
morning cup.
Yeah, he's almost like one step away from IVing the coffee.
If
right
I could
now.
IV it, yeah. You know what? I saw somebody respond the other day about like getting through life, and my response to them was just a steady caffeine regimen,
Mm-hmm.
and then a sleeping additive, to counteract.
And
the
if you
uppers.
anyone out there listening is a heart doctor, maybe you should make some comments. Of
you could weigh in on
Right.
Coffee is good for the heart.
coffee is good for the heart.
within reason.
I'm
Yes.
I'm reasonable in my approach.
Just,
So
10, 12 cups a day. That's all.
it's
Chuck
easy.
says get the quart size cups.
That's right. We'll get the quart size. Chuck will be on the purchase list. We'll do pre-orders on
There we
those.
go.
Get the big tumblers going out.
That's right.
So we've got a fun series of episodes up for you. If you were listening on your streaming platform, you'll know that there was some bonus content for you over break while we were here doing some infrastructure improvements. And if you haven't been on that, go to Audible, go to Google Cast, go to iTunes, however, and get yourself that bonus content that was just for our listeners specifically. And as a continued follow-up for the new year, a big solid thank you for being part of our podcast family, because ultimately in the auto industry, and this is not just reserved to off-road, this is not anything specific about just Jeeps. Podcasts in general, registered on Buzzsprout, which is one of the largest hosting platforms, we are ranking in the top 25% of all podcasts.
Which is
That's
crazy.
Hundreds of thousands of podcasts, and thanks to you, our listeners and our viewers, we are ranking in the top 25%. So hopefully, as we continue to move forward in the new year and years to come, we will continue to inform, entertain, and obviously be part of your daily routine. Well, as usual,
Yep.
we try to digest a little bit. The I Speak Jeep podcast is unique because it's about the Jeep life. It's about all things DIY and kind of what makes people attracted to the brand, the lifestyle, that kind of stuff, and ultimately. That goes far beyond the vehicles themselves.
Yep.
For you and I specifically, and obviously Jeffrey, he's a Jeep owner as well, and multiple project enthusiast.
Too many projects.
Right.
Too
Don't
many
ask our wives. As far as that's concerned, if you're tuning in and listening to us, we oftentimes talk a little bit about what we're kind of striving to do in our own personal lives. Certainly, it's something Scott and I, are constantly doing, kind of larger than life projects that most people shouldn't endeavor
I was
into.
on a marathon.
And honestly, I mean, we started there probably 15, 20 years ago ourselves, doing little tchotchke projects and
Yep.
then going into much bigger things. And so we will take a moment to kind of catch up, and I hope that you enjoy that as you guys listen in. And obviously, you can follow us on our social media to see Scott's doing a authentic, resto mod ish. It's not even a resto mod.
Traditional hot rod.
Traditional hot rod build, 1936 Ford. And then obviously I am just making really wild choices and turning a storage unit into a house.
Well, Scott Lindquist just chimed in saying morning and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Happy New Year
Scott.
to Scott L.
Same with Darla, same thing. Morning.
Hey,
Happy New
Darla.
Year.
Yep.
So what are you thinking, Scott? What I saw you post a ton of pictures. You can find him at Ford 1936 Ford Crazy on Insta. And
Yep.
Scott Brown on Facebook, and you're gonna have to put up with really cute pictures of our family and kids
Yep.
in the process. Just if you're
Even-
on our social.
Yep. But it was I started out the break with I think the original floor still on the passenger side,
Right.
and I cut that all out and prepped the new floor, and I tried something different. This time I welded the rocker to the floor and then installed it, which actually went a lot smoother than the other side, but live and learn sort of situation.
So you had the rocker like prefabbed or preformed?
I bought floor pans and rocker panels for the car.
Okay.
Floors, I'd probably knowing now doing what I know now, I probably would have made them, but it is what it is. I
Right.
own them, so I'm using them.
Man, oh god, we've done that. If we had every part back that we bought because we thought somebody else had the secrets to success, and we
Yeah.
buy it and we're like, oh well, that's cool, and then you
Yeah,
get it and you're like,
It's important. I didn't know how to put these in when I bought them, so it's been a real learning curve.
absolutely.
The rockers, yeah, I'm not making those. Those are stamped.
Those should be stamped, right?
So there's a
Multiple
lot of
compound
curves.
stuff. Yeah.
Did I
but
say you got a new metal brake?
I did. I upgraded that and instantly used the crap out of it.
Yikes.
So we're gonna be. I upgraded that tool, and it was really cool to step back from New Year's. Everybody reflects on what they've done that year, and
Isn't that something?
I think it was 6 pieces of equipment I added to my home shop,
Wow.
which is a lot.
Which
That
is a
is.
lot, especially because these are not cheap pieces of equipment.
No.
These are not, hand tools.
Suddenly I was like, wow, this is why I'm broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That realization happens.
yeah. So yeah, it's all stuff I use though, and justifies it some. The wife already asked if it paid for itself, the brake. I said maybe.
That's cool. It's cool though.
So
And it's been interesting because I know we've talked a bunch that it's actually almost in getting these tools, it's similar to how we approach our vehicles because you're almost like you're thumbing through a catalog. I mean, that's what we used to do. Now
Yeah.
we scroll, you know what I mean? We
Yep.
scroll for sale ads or manufacturers' catalogs. But now you're like, hey, I can buy this tool for, a third the cost of this one over here,
Yep.
Manufacturer B.
Yep.
I can buy manufacturer A. It's $100, and manufacturer B is $300. What's the difference?
Yep.
And then there's manufacturer X who's got it for like $1,800, and you're like, why the heck is he so pricey? And then
Yep.
you're actually figuring out what you're buying, and then some of the tools you're actually having to kind of modify yourself, kind of like we modify our vehicles or
Yep.
upgrade our houses or whatever.
Yep, and it's really crazy or eye-opening for these tools is most are the same. Doesn't matter where you buy them, just a big increase in price. Like the English wheel specifically, I have the only difference between the one I bought and the fancier one is how many extra dies that come with it, and the dies are $300.
Yeah.
But I can buy those later.
Well, and if you're listening in or watching us and you don't know what an English wheel is, it's a specific piece of metalworking equipment that basically pinches a piece of metal
Yep.
between two wheels,
Yep.
arguably. And what that does is it allows a natural curvature to happen in the
With
metal
pressure.
itself with pressure.
Yep.
And so those dies the die, when we use that term, it's actually a wheel.
Yep.
Of varying sizes
And
that-
profile.
and profile. Look at
Yep.
us being technical. And because this is the stuff we geek out on, you know what
It
I
is.
mean? Like, we didn't plan this. This is just what we're going to talk about, and we want to educate you in the process. But anyways, it's a super cool product, or not product, but tool, and so it's got this big throat to it.
Yep.
And so certain English wheels, if you go back way old school, 100-year-old English wheels, they're all cast iron, and they
Yeah.
got this big, beautiful throat.
People
and-
spend 20 grand on those. No,
Absolutely.
it's crazy.
And as just the nature of who I am, you know that I'm like, ooh, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for
Yeah.
those things. I'm not going to buy one.
I
anytime
heard that
soon.
it's like you will it from one to the X, like your apprentice. Like you get my English wheel.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
believe it. I believe it because
So-
those things are super cool.
And speaking of your car, Chuck was chiming in with a new hashtag for you. Hashtag definitely a restoration. And,
That's right.
And then Daddy Jeep, of course, saying Happy New Year, guys.
Hey,
Happy New Year.
Happy
to
New Year, Daddy Jeep. I
Daddy
saw
Jeep.
he was out, rabbit hunting. So
Yep.
looked like he was. Had a
Yeah, he's been
successful
following
endeavor.
along with my build ever since he's been on. Me almost immediately liking and
That's fantastic.
commenting.
Yeah, super supportive character. Honestly, that's one of the things that I would reflect upon, and so I did not take a ton of time to kind of transition off of our projects real quick. I did not take a ton of time to like be in that moment and like go, hey, these are the things we accomplished. Obviously, internally as a company, we've talked about some of our metrics and our processes and
Yep.
our infrastructure
Yeah,
improvements.
but you did that in December, so you're like 3 months ahead now.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
That's yeah.
And those are all accurate for me through this time where we had some time off and the shop was kind of minimal staffed. It was all about kind of like keeping things running. Like obviously we had that huge snowstorm and we
Yeah.
had
Snowmageddon.
freeze-ageddon,
Yeah.
and we were bringing in as people come in, you're going to see we're doing a big infrastructure improvement. So a huge shout out to
Yeah, excuse our dust.
yeah, huge shout out to our team who's taking this on top of our projects while we try to make our space more efficient and quality overall to operate and and exist here in this building. But as far as I was saying, I didn't take a lot of time to appreciate those specific New Year's things that we usually do. One of the things I really did kind of take a moment over the last couple of weeks is how many people, specifically in the auto community right now, are like trying to positively support other people along in their processes. And whether that's you're trying to start a YouTube channel or be, kind of a digital influencer or digital creator, you've got build projects going on. It was really remarkable to see a number of people on my social and then just out there in the world kind of positively cheerleading along the next person who's trying to do a build, who's trying to do something a little out of their character. And I thought that was super cool. Like you said, jumped on, started getting involved in your process, trying to to celebrate you. And obviously we had him on here to talk about his YouTube process and his builds. I think that's
the way it should be.
That's the way it
Absolutely.
should be. You know what I mean? That's the way it should be. And
this will really floor you. So I bought 2 arms for my carburetors to help link the 2 carbs together.
Totally.
And I found this really cool startup business. Guys doing it eye hand in the trenches.
Yes.
Dark lights.
Yep.
Long hours.
Yes.
No fingerprints from
Yes.
polishing and stuff. And he also jumped on and started following my build and stuff, and lots of comments and stuff. And I found myself giving him business advice. Scott,
Right?
in 2023, he's
Right.
giving me business advice.
And for people joining us, listening in, I mean, you may never have the appreciation for where we came up from. And actually that's a part, Jeffrey and I are working on a pet project on the side, which you may be interested if you're on the business or leadership side of things. You might want to kind of put that on your radar, because we're actually talking about how people kind of continue to improve themselves, how they come up, especially in business and leadership. And that's obviously something we practice a lot ourselves.
I think that's the biggest takeaway I have from all the stuff I experienced in 22, business growth and project building like I am doing, is how little information is out there to consume for that. There's very little people showing you, hey, weld this in here, or this is how I made that, or this, that kind of stuff. And likewise with businesses, they just don't. It's like the secret.
Yeah,
I
there's a
can't
lot of
can't
people.
let my secret
People
out.
wanting to capitalize on those secrets, or
Yeah.
they're kind of talking above,
Yes.
at an above level, that's kind of intended for.
It's almost like, well, here's my book. You should buy that if you're asking questions.
Well, and
There's a lot to that.
and
Yeah,
there is
there
something to
is,
that,
but
because
you gotta get
obviously,
them interested enough to buy the book.
well,
I have a whole bookshelf full of them.
so Jeffrey knows what that is. Yeah, there's an entire industry dedicated.
I
to
mean,
it,
I
to say the
had
least.
Scott taking one of the quizzes from one of them,
Yeah.
and he referred to it as a cosmopolitan quiz.
Oh, that's the Cosmo quiz he was
Yeah,
taking.
it's not. He's not wrong. It kind of was,
Yeah.
but
right.
it's a really interesting
I
one. So.
told him it's because we're gonna be staring at each other. Now I gotta do Cosmo quiz.
I know what else happens in those Cosmo magazines, so I'm not 100% sure that I want to be privy to
Oh, you're taking the quiz. Too.
to the longing stares in the Cosmo quizzes.
You gotta have a burn email for it though.
Oh, a burner email for it. Nice.
I'm sure we'll talk about that as we progress on that other series that we're talking
It's
about.
awesome. That's awesome. So if you're still listening, if you're still with us, and I hope that you are, make sure that that you understand. We're going to talk Jeep. We're going to talk automotive industry. We're going to talk personal. We're going to talk all those types of things. So make this part of your
And
routine.
if you
right?
happen to get a topic we're really really on board about, you might hear that the rest of the
Oh, I'm
podcast.
going to get super fired up, and then we're probably gonna derail
Always.
and go
off the track.
off the tracks.
Your wife chimed in and said good morning, and then
Good morning, honey.
Chuck also says no judgment here. So
We appreciate that. That's a core principle of ours. And so, as we tiptoe into our topic, or part of our topic for the day, and then we're going to play a little fun game. Jeffrey's going to give us a budget, and we're going to do our hashtag not sponsored product review. All of those things in store for today. I'll just kind of do a quick, brief little tidbit. My big shout out to people who have all helped and assisted on my endeavor or project. My wife and I moved along steadily. We are building a quote unquote tiny home.
Tiny for a Simpson.
It's not tiny. Yeah, it's not tiny.
Their normal tire size is 35s. Just
Right,
putting that out there.
That's normal. In fact, my wife's daily driver is on 37s with
Yeah.
beadlocks, and she totally just crawls them all. Like that
Yeah.
is legitimately.
Just think of what you've put the bar for your kids, because Grandpa's Jeep's on 35s.
Yes. Yeah.
Mom's Jeep's on 37s. Dad's on 40s.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they look down on all the
They looked at
31s.
The peasants on
Yes.
the 31s that I came up with, right? And God, my wife and I have too many conversations about that and going, how do we make sure, because obviously it's important we touch on the fact that, Christmas just happened and the kind of the sanctity of that. How do we make sure we recognize all the people that are part of the process, and to say, hey, if we're starting at 35s and 37s, how do we appreciate the people in the 31s and the 33s, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that literally. I mean that in a figurative
Yeah.
sense, how do we give back and positively contribute to our community because of our position on 37s and 40s?
Yeah.
If we can actually make that relation there. So our house is I'm super jazzed up because part of my goal for kind of hitting this stride point was to have the house dried in, which if you're not familiar with that term, it means that reasonably the exterior is outside of vinyl siding. It's largely all weatherproof, right? So your tape, your flashing, any of your staple, your window work, all that kind of stuff. And we are, realistically, we're appropriately right there. And so
I saw exciting things, and now you have to use a key to get in your house.
now we have to key. And so it was a big thing for my family. It's a big thing for my family. We actually,
They did ribbon cutting.
no, you know what?
Everybody got a key.
We keyed in. Everybody got a key, and they got to key in and cross the
That's
threshold.
really cool.
So
That's really cool.
wanted to make it special.
That's very memorable.
Right. Wanted to make it special or memorable to say, hey, this is that moment where we're doing something unusual, So
Yeah, and it's good to have those goals. My goal was to have the passenger side floor welded in the car before New Year's Day happened.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was literally out there New Year's Eve welding.
I was gonna say, how late were you out there?
and
He was watching the ball drop as he's finishing
no,
the last
it
weld.
was not quite that
And
bad.
actually, I was working New Year's Eve. Big shout out to Jason, who's been he's one of our customers, who's become a fantastic friend over the years, and he has been alongside with me, on the week to week, and another customer turned friend named Kevin, who's been a wealth of information and support in the process, kind of appropriately goading me along, going, hey, did you order this? Hey, do you have this going?
Yeah.
And that support network of individuals, kind of recognizing your goal, your process, and going, hey,
Let me help you.
let me help you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's just super cool, even if it's just in the, hey, how's this going? Honestly, Jeffrey, we needed a ladder. He was able to run out there at the shop.
Yep.
He needed a ladder. He ran out, he got it, and then he brought it back over. You know what I mean?
Doing half-ton things.
Working that gladiator. I'm doing half ton.
That 10-foot ladder was a lot for that gladiator.
That
I'm
was.
just
10-foot
saying.
ladder.
They had to put a flag on it even.
Did you? I don't expect you to watch every YouTube video. Did you see my little shout out to you in the my top favorite Jeeps of SEMA?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I
That's fine.
gotta finish watching that video.
All right.
That actually makes me think of something. So I went to get my metal brake. It comes in a big box, almost as big as this table. And they have it on a forklift. And I pull around with my JK and I open the hatch. And I hear them key over the mic. We're going to need help. This guy's trying to put it in a Jeep. I'm like, man, I feel a judgment over here.
At least I didn't show up with my Nissan.
Oh. And luckily I had a guy that, could go farther. The guy on the forklift was not there for it. He
Yeah.
was not getting off his forklift. He was not helping.
I have literally, though, in the Nissan comment,
Yeah.
when I worked in the furniture industry, we had people in Nissans pull up and just throw it on the roof. No.
Ah.
This weighs more than your entire car. I'm
Right.
not throwing this on your
Yeah,
roof.
but you got to have somebody that's a little bit of a go-getter and is willing to give a little effort. And I ended up, luckily, his coworker was, and we ended up turning it at a slight angle and wedging it in against the roll bar.
Nice.
I closed the gate and went on about my business.
Nice.
Whatever
But the
works.
part that really threw me was I'm at a tool store. Hey, can we just open the box and I take the parts out of the box? We don't have any tools.
What? They're not allowed box cutters. They're not allowed box cutters.
You work at a store that sells tools.
Nope.
So they need to buy the ceramic knife ones because those apparently are safe and they don't cut you.
Oh.
You know what? One of my family bought one of my 7-year-old a ceramic, cooking knife for the purpose of practicing those
I
kitchen
probably
skills.
just still cut myself with
I'm
that.
pretty sure you can still cut yourself. with those.
Oh
In
goodness!
his defense, it was a wooden box with metal holding the lid down, so it was more challenging than most.
Oh,
I had tried with my
see.
pocket knife to wedge it in there, and that didn't work. So I was like, okay, I might have to go buy a screwdriver.
So speaking of wooden boxes, we have some very special wooden boxes here in the shop, and we're going to be talking about those in about 20-25 minutes. So make sure that you stay on long enough that you can hear about these really cool wooden boxes that have challenging,
They're larger wooden boxes than were normal.
larger. Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, we
I
measured and
measured it out.
verified.
Yep.
measured and verified
We
those
have
large
those-
wooden boxes. You're going to want to hear about this, so make sure you hang out in the process. It is a reasonably good transition because we've been talking a lot about kind of the goal setting and go getting, right? Unfortunately that individual who might not have wanted to get off of their forklift in the process, So do you, traditionally a lot of people like to use the year end.
I'm
going
going to call out Scott drinking his water out of his mug just real quick.
I
for
don't
those
see
that
anything
are
wrong here.
those that are watching, you probably just saw what happened. But those that are listening, we have our SFJ mugs, and Scott was asked by the Savage to put his water in the mug for drinking purposes. He stuck the entire bottle into the
He
mug.
just set the bottle in the mug.
So now
Like,
he's literally taking drinks out of the bottle that's in the mug.
I poured my
what I
coffee
do.
from my tumbler into the mug appropriately. I actually followed for the probably
He told me to put my
the
water
first
in the mug,
time
and I
today,
did.
probably the only time today. I followed instructions.
Can't imagine this is why I work out good here. 'cause
I was gonna say.
I'm like, oh, there's a rule, huh?
Let me
I'm
find
inside
a way.
the rule.
Let me find a way to work just within the cusp of the rule. Oh, but break the box at the same time. I love it.
Yeah,
gracious.
That's what I do.
Yep.
Oh, that's I love it. So when we talk about that, and there's a lot of like folklore involved with New Year's, and for me, I'm not a big like set a resolution guy. I'm not.
That's
I've had
because you
some
grew
fun-
up watching people set resolutions and then immediately not follow.
Yeah, I'm a little jaded on like how
Yeah.
that works, but I think it is appropriate to do a year-end review, reflect,
Yep.
authentically, and to say, hey, do I have
Be
goals?
honest.
Right? Do I have some honest goals that I want to achieve? Not your standard
Not-
candid.
I'm not going to go to the
starting
gym.
my diet on
I'm going to the
January
gym
2.
5 days a week for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you know what I
You're
mean.
2
Like if-
weeks in,
Yeah.
they're on
If
with a bag of chips sitting on the couch.
Yeah, if you didn't make it a habit or part of your lifestyle, I don't think that one night writing it on a piece of paper makes the difference. Owning
Resolutions at a bar at the night of it doesn't count.
it. Nice. But are there goals? Are there things? Are there realities or actualizations that both our listeners, our viewers, have you set and you want to share with us? We'd love to know. So you could comment. Either here on the live or down below or write into us or whatever. But what is on your guys' radar for
What?
Jeep and project and company and all that kind of stuff?
I told my wife what my goal was, and I almost don't want to say it on the podcast because it's such a normal sappy thing.
Okay.
But I genuinely mean it. Is I want to get out of credit card debt for 2023,
Oh, okay.
and I still want to build my car, so that's a challenge.
Oh, buddy.
I think that's a great goal, though.
The carburetors were $500 a piece. I need 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least you
Yeah.
have 12 months to work on that.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're not driving the car tomorrow. Let's,
No, no, I'm not. But we'll see how it goes.
Right.
I had to buy kids glasses and a bunch of other stuff. So honestly, the debt on the card is not all car.
Yeah.
hardly any of its car. It's all life stuff that happens.
Because life happens, right? No matter what.
But still got to get it paid off. So that's my goal.
Okay.
As sappy as it is.
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, I abhor credit card debt and just that type of unsecured debt, high interest debt, regardless. And I'm gonna take a moment. It's not really particularly Jeep related, and that's if anybody ever really wants to know, we are a highly solvent. SFJ 4x4 is a highly solvent business that does not operate with any startup funding or high
I'd say
debt
what
to
the
income
first
ratio.
6 to 7 years, 8 years maybe had no loans.
Correct.
At all.
Correct. Right.
It's
So
all stuff you made with your hands.
Everything was with 2 hands, right?
Yep.
2 hands and a lot of elbow grease. And I was always very proud to when I did have to talk to people within the business industry, and we bring them into this 5,000 square foot facility,
Yeah.
and we had all the ridge rack and we had
Yep.
all the parts.
Yeah.
And
First thing was, well, how much debt do you have?
Absolutely. And they look around and I'm like, hey, this is cash money. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You look at those lifts, I paid for them. You look at and it wasn't the best equipment. You
No.
know what I mean? So if there is somebody out
We had
there
to buy
setting
some
up-
extra dies.
right? And a big shout out to him. Honestly, Ari reached out to me, one of our earliest
yeah?
employees. Yeah, he's back spinning a wrench.
Oh.
And when I bring this up, folks, if you're listening, he was actually a fledgling tool maker, and so he actually
Yeah.
made some extra tools for us
Yep.
because
He was back in the dark days.
right,
When
right.
heat was in the tools and
Heat
stuff.
was in the tools, and move faster, work harder.
Yep.
But I can 100% appreciate the fact that you don't want to be strapped and saddled with
Yeah.
crippling debt. We shouldn't be.
No.
At the same time, I know we want to do cool and crazy stuff, and that's challenging to say how do I create this
And with that
balancing act
said,
myself.
You do need, in my opinion, some sort of card. You don't need 15.
Yeah,
You need one so that when you do need to take your kids in for their glasses and suddenly they're $600,
right.
well, that sucks.
Yep.
But they need glasses.
Right. Or, and I mean, I hate to even say this, but if your chief priority in life, vehicular or project based, is those carburetors, and they go on a sale where you're like, hey, I'm going to save $150,
Then you need to do it.
then you need to do it.
Yeah.
Because but it's not like, oh, hey, you know what? All of a sudden, I'm going to go out and buy a set of fireworks because all of a sudden it sounds
I feel
great to you.
attacked.
called out, Jeff.
I feel called out.
Well, that's your thing, Jeffrey.
Wow.
That's not Scott's thing. And that's why I brought it up. I mean,
Listen,
as if Scott was to run up the fireworks.
That's only $1,000 in July.
Right, but that's your thing.
Once a year.
That's your thing.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
think I
Scott's.
spent that on tools this past year.
I definitely spent that on tools this past year.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying.
I spent that on Kristen's Christmas present for.
Which was really cool.
Yeah.
And do you have goals with
She now
that?
knows what that was now.
Yeah,
Do you
she
have
does.
goals with that particular piece? Tell people what it is.
So
What did you do?
I actually went and bought her a laser cutter type CNC engraver machine, so she can work on all materials: wood, acrylics, leathers, stainless steel, all different things. It's actually really cool. She is big into photography, went to school for digital design, so she's going to be able to put her graphics that she's created onto all these different materials. Her photos that she takes, she can actually engrave the photos onto wood.
Sure.
So it's just a really, really cool tool that she can use.
Yeah. I saw you guys already started cutting out, little characters, little
Yeah,
logo
so,
things.
so there was a couple test projects, so just to get you used to it. So we both messed around with that a little
Sure.
bit. But now I have to build her a custom workspace for it because the thing is so huge. It's currently on her dining room table.
Nice.
So I'm,
That's where it should be. That's
Yeah.
where everything starts out, right?
yeah. So building her a whole custom workspace is actually what I was working on this weekend when I gave myself another concussion, but that's another story. However, so that's her thing. My specific goal is I want to make my Jeep more overland friendly, and that part of that is that camper that I purchased last year and finish renovating that, stripping it all down, getting the frame chopped up. My goal is at some point in 2023 to take that camping.
Oh,
So
that's a big endeavor, man.
it's a
That
huge
is-
endeavor.
And just if people
Put
are
in
not familiar,
perspective, it's a frame right now, right?
Yes, it's a 36-foot.
I was gonna say it's
frame.
like a 58-foot frame. That's
I know, I
triple
saw-
the length
I
of the
remember when he hauled it
Gladiator.
home, he was showing a picture with it behind his truck. I'm like, I do some things. I know he's got more weight capacity,
capacity.
than I do.
He's doing 1-ton things at that point.
Right?
He's doing 1-ton
Chuck's
things.
joining in. He's saying, "Let's go camping." He's all for this.
Oh right. Well, Chuck
So-
needs to move on with his build as well. He,
Yeah.
get rid of his camper. Get his.
so
RV.
He needs
Wags.
some of those big crates that we're going to be talking
I
about.
know he
later.
does need
He
one
does
of those,
need
some
those
of those big
crates.
crates. I think that is if we talk about goals. So I have my personal little one, kind of like you were talking about, and it's actually a holdover from pre-COVID. But my wife and I are a little spontaneous, and it's actually part of our attempt to downsize.
A little.
I can't say anything.
Right? I'm guilty too.
So, and we're good with like little dip in and dip outs. I was thinking about that. A lot of people are like, "Hey, you got to go for."
Chuck just chimed in and said, "Shh, wife's in the room."
Yeah, nice.
So we can't talk about building his Jeep right now.
No, okay.
Small wooden boxes.
Small wooden boxes, compact.
The padded little box, sometimes that helps the bigger purchase of bigger boxes.
Yes, that's right. Padded box that opens like
Yes.
this, or
Always
jewelry.
Chuck, it is a pine crate, so if things go south.
If things go south, it's got double use.
Yeah.
Oh, gracious. I was thinking people set these elaborate goals to be like, oh, I got to go on this 2-week vacation, this 4-week, whatever. And I'm thinking, sometimes 24 hours, 48 hours is more than enough. You can actually pack a lot of life and enjoyment into that piece of time. For me, back 3 years ago to the date, which was just completely kind of serendipitous, my family went to Niagara Falls, and that was before the whole world went topsy-turvy from the pandemic, and so ultimately it was at that point in time December of 2019, and I was like, you know what, it would be great to be able to go over just simply to the Canadian side and view back, and of course we need passports.
Yes.
To even just do that anymore, and not to mention that, hey, I think it'd be kind of cool to go somewhere a little more elaborate. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who say, I don't ever really need to go across one of the big ponds. I don't know. I kind of think I might like to do that,
Yep.
But of course,
especially with kids, there's a lot to do on Clifton Hill when you get over to the Canadian side.
sure.
You've got all the 4D theaters, the wax museums. I mean, there's just so much for the kids to enjoy.
Absolutely. And so I'm thinking, you know what? I had wanted to get us passports. And that's a process. You know what I mean? That's not something that you're like,
Can't be real
what?
spontaneous with
You
that.
can't be
sadly.
really spontaneous with that. So,
Sucks.
so on a personal note, that's going to be one of the things that, it's just some paperwork. It's just a little bit of process. And obviously it's money that we have to, go, hey, that's not in our budget that we were intending to spend. So where does that come from? And how do I make that a priority?
Yep.
Which obviously is one of the big pieces with
Anything.
anything, right? Even with building a car, building a Jeep,
Yep. Or a
as
house.
or a house, to say the least, right? Yeah. Oh, you tell me.
Honestly though, as much as I've renovated this house at this point, I'm thinking I should have just built one because there's.
You bought an idea.
You bought an idea, though,
Yeah, I did,
and that's what all that matters. And
Would-
and I keep
with Jeff-
changing and evolving that idea. So
Would Jeff, when he bought that house, have been ballsy enough to actually build a house?
I would have been if I had a
But
good
would
enough
you have
spot.
had the same skill set and
No.
the tool base and all that?
No.
So-
And see, that's the
so
whole
that's what you
thing.
needed a house for.
And if our viewers and listeners take anything away from what we say, because ultimately, I can name off a dozen customers that we're currently working with right now. Some of which are actually logged on and part of our everyday communication Jeep family. Buying an idea, you can't undervalue the fact. A lot of people are like, well, I feel like I'm upside down.
You are.
You are. So own it, right?
Yeah.
But we bought an idea. We bought a dream. And
You can't put a price on that.
you can't put a price on that. And now you're part of the process. And that in of itself becomes revealing. You make connections in the process. You, Jeffrey, developed tools and bought tools to
Absolutely.
do projects and process. I've done the same with I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now if I just had to say, okay, I've got 4 weeks and I'm just going to build this house up. I couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the budget. I didn't have the tool set. And I certainly didn't have the knowledge set. And that's any project.
I
right?
told Jeff the other day, I said, doing what I'm doing with my car makes me want to do more stuff like this, more creative things. Like I told him I want to just find a Model T Cal and I'll build the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I would have never, ever done that or even thought about it. I would have bought something. And that's not going to be any time in 23. That's a long time goal.
Sure.
But now that I've done it, I want to challenge myself more and do more of it.
I think that you bring up a really good point in the sense that and sometimes it is okay if you are in the position, say you've invested heavily in your career path and now you're financially solvent enough to hit that credit card or have that loan or pay cash for that toy or the house or the vacation or whatever, then cool, just dip into it and start using it. But ultimately, there's a lot of people who buy the project vehicle because it's right there, it's affordable, it's in their eyesight,
Yep.
and then it never goes any further than that.
Yep.
So it's okay to say, hey, I've worked hard in my career path, and now I'm just gonna snap my finger, swipe the card, do the payment, and boom, build my thing. That's cool. Kudos to you for working
I
hard.
honestly think that's a step 2 of getting to that more creative process, as long as you're open to the process.
Yes.
Yep.
But ultimately, I think a lot of us, when we start out, we buy a dream.
Yep.
We buy an idea. And
Well, speaking of ideas, Daddy Jeep is talking about he'll be doing that with a 2A Cal eventually.
Cool.
Oh, yes. Oh, you know what? And I'm not gonna jump into it because this is where the train comes off the tracks real quick.
Oh boy.
But here is the legitimate, honest truth. Scott and I passed a 2A Cal back and forth generationally between my grandfather, Scott, myself, his brother,
Yeah.
somebody else,
Yeah.
who knows, whatever.
Yep.
We were in a car accident because of the
Yep.
Cal.
So got it.
Still have it. And right now it is bequeathed to your child, I believe.
Yep.
This-
That's not a bad plan. I could really use that to hone the skills a little bit more for that Model T.
Oh my goodness.
Currently have it.
Oh
There it
my
is.
goodness. And this
Just need the idea.
the reality just need the idea. The realities of the cobbed up crazy things that we've gotten ourselves into over the years. That and Daddy G brings it up, like, oh yeah, just pull Cal and build it back. Yep.
Yep.
we didn't come off that idea because
Just put on ice for a while.
That's
all,
right.
All you need right now is a credit card swipe because he just bought that idea. Scott's ready to go.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Goodness.
So do we want to talk about the game then?
Well, do you have what was your Overland ready?
The Overland ready making.
I'm
the
gonna
camper
I'm gonna
ready.
make passports happen. How are you gonna put that camper? I mean, is there any shell left of it?
No.
So it's just a frame.
Yeah, I mean, there's a small section
that's a
of shell
mile
left that
long.
needs to come down.
That's
but
a mile long of a frame.
Yeah, we're gonna cut it down, and Jeff's gonna weld it.
yes, I'm learning my metalwork stuff. I'm gonna.
Cool.
I actually do plan to chop it down. I'm gonna take at least 10 feet, possibly more, off of it. Reposition where the axles are on it, so that it's balanced for the proper weight load, and then stick build it back up. I was talking with actually Daddy Jeep when he was here. He actually did his out of aluminum framing. I don't think I'm ready to try that challenge myself.
Yeah,
I'm
I
very good with woodwork. So
I don't have that tool yet, so
Right. Correct.
I don't even have that tool yet.
I'll work on getting that welder. But for the time
It's
being,
$1,000, just in case you're wondering.
my world, everything.
Everything's
is,
$1,000.
No, we have crested into $5,000. Everything is $5,000.
Well, it's a bargain then.
That's right.
There it is.
Yeah, that's right. Everything. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we have reasonable goals. Are there vehicular? So yours is reasonably vehicular. Do you have a vehicle goal that you
Drive
think
my car.
No. Really?
I want to drive the car so
You're gonna
bad.
drive the car.
Yeah, I don't
Huh.
care about interior. I don't care about paint. I just want to drive it. I want glass and maybe some windshield wipers and some seats to sit on.
No,
And-
you got milk crates for that.
Oh, I do have the seats that came with it.
Okay.
So I have seats. They're a little itchy and a little. My wife actually really loves it. They patched them together like old jeans. There's just this
Oh.
big
Patchwork.
She like imagine the wife.
It
Going
was
out
probably the wife of the
and
husband and
hit-
stitching.
stitching it to make it better.
Though in my son's, he stitched up something over the weekend. We were very
Yeah.
proud. He just kind of sat down and just started sewing. And
You know what
whip
Aiden
stitched.
wanted for after Christmas?
What was his?
A sewing machine.
Oh, nice.
Perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He needs to get good with it so we can do an interior.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, maybe Uncle Neil should help in that process.
Yes.
So that
We have
Let's
we have
develop
stuff
that.
we need.
Oh
I
boy.
have wants. There's nobody around who does good quality interior in
Right?
this area. Oh my gosh! And that's not to say if there is, I don't know, but
Yes.
we don't have a resource for that. So.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, well, tell us, Jeffrey, what's your budget? What's your game plan? What's
So,
this game you got for us?
For the New Year, New Jeep thing, what I wanted to do is have you guys each pick, if you could purchase a new Jeep, what would that Jeep be, and how would you modify it with a given budget? And your budget is going to be $100,000.
Oh.
You have $100,000.
Got this.
He says got this, but I don't know if he realizes that a lot of Jeeps right now on the lot are $100,000.
Yeah, I'm not buying one of those.
So I was gonna say, you say new Jeep.
A new Jeep.
Do you mean a new
if you're-
produced vehicle?
Yes.
A newly produced vehicle.
Newly produced.
That's
See?
not fair.
See, that's where he's going to get you.
That's not
where he's
fair.
going to get you. You
So-
wanted to buy some ragged out piece of crap idea.
I'll give you a $40,000 budget to buy a used Jeep.
Okay, I'm still going with that.
So wait, he's got 40G to
d-
buy a Jeep
to buy-
and to mod it.
To buy a used and mod it.
Okay.
Meh.
And okay, so you got 40G on that, and I'll take the 100 on the new jobber.
Daddy Jeep saying I'd buy a dozen for $100K.
Those
How about new ones?
well, those crap boxes are
Yeah.
are we could buy those all day long for $100,000. I'm with you. If I had somewhere that I could confidently keep all the all the dilapidated pieces of junk in
Oh.
my life,
Such hoarders.
I would
Chuck says $100K and an LJ, please.
nice. Yes.
That's not a new one. Doesn't fit the criteria.
On a side note, just because my wife doesn't watch the podcast anyways,
Uh-huh.
we're working on the house, so we're up on these high like the windows that are
Precariously up high.
we're precariously up high, and she's looking from the window, like we're framing in the windows and we're putting them in, and she's looking across the property. And mind you, folks, we're on 10 acres at this point, and I thought. Appropriately hidden a 1961 Ford Thunderbird in the weeds.
Nope. It's a good thing I'm learning that skill set,
Oh
huh?
boy.
And she's like, I hate that car over there. I said, what car? She goes, that Thunderbird of yours, why don't you go park it in our driveway where we're currently staying? And I was like, well, I'm not going to park it because it doesn't look good. And she's like, exactly. She was like, well, you can go park it in your parents' driveway then. And I was like, there's nothing to park. I don't see anything. I totally just... I didn't
the
admit
meme
anything.
Where it's a guy with a trailer with a smoothie, and what do you have there? A smoothie.
Yes, yes. I have a smooth. I don't have a. There's no trailer. There's nothing.
no car.
There's no car. Nope. There's nothing. I don't see anything, dear. I don't know what you're looking at. No, I'm not here for that.
Thank God I have my wife.
Well, I'm very appreciative of my wife. I'm building
I know.
a house out of a
She's
trailer.
supporting you in things.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's right alongside. She's leveling windows and taping off in the winter.
When random stuff, even sometimes not mine, show up in my backyard. She's just
I
like,
love
"What's
hiding
that?"
stuff at your house. Honest, thank you, Amy. And I'm sorry-ish neighbors of Scott's.
Yeah.
There was a running joke for the longest time because I had the big red ram, and
Yeah, they didn't like when they saw it show
they didn't
up.
like when they saw the big red ram show up with stuff, dropping stuff off randomly in the backyard.
It's always a game with me because she doesn't go in the backyard often. How long you can sit there before she notices?
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna endeavor into that conversation.
I feel like she'll
'cause
notice
she
the
does watch.
36-foot trailer when I bring it over.
Probably.
I love it. I love it. We'll have to have like a little get together at Scott's house as we just pull trailers and dilapidated junk into the backyard. The Savage we'll just position him out front so he can have a good vantage point on Scott's neighbors on either side to see if which ones are like coming out and just like stand angrily at the borders of the property.
Area. They all have cars, so it's all good.
That's right. And you have this long, narrow acreage.
Yes.
Right? So the nice thing is
keep going back.
Just keep going back. Just keep going back to the tree line. Nice. All right. So 40,000. I've got 100,000. I know exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay. So who's going first?
Jeffrey, you came up with the parameter. So
Scott, you're going to go first since you changed the rules of the game.
Oh, nice.
Fine.
I agree.
So I'm gonna purchase a 66 through 68, 9, somewhere in there. Jeepster Commando.
Oh, God, it was going to be a godforsaken Jeepster Commando.
And the Jeep's gonna cost between $3,500 and $7,000.
No, you got to pick one. Pick one.
Okay,
see, my number mine is coming into this. So
Yeah, you got to pick something specific.
Okay, I'll buy a $7,000.
I think that's
Jeepster.
appropriate, right? Because Jeepsters right now are not coming off. Very.
Yeah, the $3,500 one's a real piece of garbage.
Yeah, that's
so it's sat in my
garbage.
yard for a while.
That's going to sit in your yard for a couple of years.
The $7,000 one,
All
you're
right,
gonna try driving it home and break down.
It's got half a body and it doesn't run. Ran when parked 12 years ago.
And then I can either do one of two things, but if
All
we're
right.
working in a budget, are you allowed to
You
use
got
parts you already have?
$33,000. No, you got
No.
$33,000 left.
Then I'm gonna go and strong arm one of my buddies for a AMC 360 for $100 because that's what I buy them for.
Garbage. Yes.
That is not normal.
That's garbage rule because you're right. You do get those V8s for $100.
Yes, I do.
Okay, but it
And then-
doesn't mount up to anything.
And
Your
I'm gonna pay
transmission-
$40 on paint, and that's gonna get it rebuilt.
It's gonna get it rebuilt. If you're listening, I want you to know that Scott Scott was like 18-year-old Scott or 20-year-old Scott was in a junkyard at
Yes.
like an old school throwback
Old school.
junkyard.
Cars are precariously parked on each
Precariously.
other.
Now, if you don't know, back in the day, you had these, whether it was some type of off-road high-lift forklift vehicle, it was at the back of a tractor, or a two-wheel drive front-end loader that barely lifted things. And so they
did have a loader.
Oh, okay. So they had a payloader, and so the old school guys would come through, and they would just pick something up and then just
fling it.
just randomly throw it off to the side or drop it, and so cars would be like all over the place. You know what I mean?
And
They're not
sometimes
these
you had to
nice-
crawl through the cars, like literally
Oh my
through
God!
the cars to get to more
Spectacular,
cars.
Oh, geez.
spectacular. And I promise you. I promise you that 18, 20-year-old Scott was walking through this old school,
All the time.
crazy junkyard, and he finds an AMC 360 upside down
That
on
happened.
a pile
Yep.
of other precariously stacked trucks, cars, and
It was
other
all motors. It was
motors
sorted.
and stuff. I understand, but I'm saying motor. I'm saying all types of motors,
Yep.
right? Not
It was
ca-
complete
not
too.
Jeep car, not Jeep motor, just everything. And what does his radar zones in on
Yep.
an upside down AMC 360? You bought it for $75.
I think so.
I think $75 is what I remember.
Yeah.
You
I bought a lot of them for $75.
I know you did. I know you did. So you get it out of you get it.
They pick it up, and then his thing was, I'm keeping the transmission. At that point in the game, could give a fig about that
Dude,
four-wheel
you
drive transmission.
keep your trans. It's
Yeah.
it's exposed to the world. Any other sane individual, God bless. If you came into us, we'd be like, oh, we're rebuilding that thing. What does young Scott do?
Put it on the engine stand, flip it over, check the bearings. The bearings were okay.
Stuffs it into a car
Yep.
and drives it.
Yep. And found out the cam was flat. So I put a cam in it and then drove it some more.
That 100% happened. Found a motor
Didn't have
for
the
less than
greatest
$100.
oil pressure, but
So the whole point of this game was to help our listeners identify how they could do things.
you're telling them how to do stuff.
There's no listener that's able to do what you're doing with
Oh,
this.
there's totally somebody out there doing this.
Rob Morgan might be doing it,
Okay,
right?
fine.
Tom Sable. So the
There are
value
some.
is that is what is so beautiful about SFJ 4x4, the cast of characters that we authentically actually have.
Oh yeah.
Right? This is not, I mean,
So I'm gonna really get Jeff upset about this. The next thing, then. So now I'm gonna come to work and I'm gonna give Neil $100 and take a Turbo 400 core home. and then I'll pay $200 on a rebuild kit and rebuild it myself because I can do that.
Yep.
And then I'll put whatever
He's not even
transfer case
pushing.
I
He's not
find.
even pushing 10,000
I
at that
know.
moment.
And then for axles, I know Neil's squatting on some waggy axles over there.
Which have no value
You know
anymore.
value. So I'll give him
Waggy
$100
axles-
for the pair.
That's right. Waggy axles used to be big money, and now we're
So
like,
big
oh
money.
my god, why do we have these
I'll
things?
drag those home, and I'll wheel them with the 331.
the
gears
331 gear set.
that I have on them right now.
Because at that point, it's all about the V8.
Yes. And then I'm not putting big tires on it because it's got small wheel wells.
Commando's got no wheel well.
and
opening
it
whatsoever.
will hurt me if it's too solid to cut them.
At this point, he's already built the Jeep for $10,000, and he could turn around and sell it for $40,000.
Correct.
Well, my wife's shaking her head because I told her I was going to build a Jeep for a certain value,
Yeah.
Correct.
and I had nowhere near that. It was budget was blown.
So I was going
bad.
to say, all of this benchtop build
yeah,
is,
but
is
I
great.
can bench top with the best of them.
We
though.
Scott's just making stuff up at this point.
Right.
Because at that point in time, well, I really need this tool
I
to
can
move
get all
this
the big
bolt.
pieces for cheap,
Devil's in the details.
but to make it go down the road, that's
Yes.
where the problem happens.
the devil is in the details, to say the least, right? Put brakes on it. You're like, well, while I'm here, I
Yeah.
should really have.
It'd be really cool to have 4-wheel disc brakes.
It would be really cool to have 4-wheel disc
And
brakes.
then modifying all that.
And now we're doing
But
that.
I do know
and
how
now-
to do that now, though.
That's right. But now we're in the front end, and we're like, oh, well, this is actually a low pinion.
Just
and
don't
Curry-
show Greg any of the bearings.
All bearings are compromised in his mind, right?
So bad.
Oh my goodness. So I was gonna say, and then what interior, right? You're gonna get into the interior, and you're like, well, now I got to have seat belts, and really, we
it's
want
a soft top Jeep that probably doesn't have a top. So I think we just go to the junkyard, find a Nissan or a Honda, and rip the seats out of it, bolt those in, and move on.
Because I've been here with you and your wife and your kids.
I know.
And you're like, because
because
the
I started
seats that
with
are currently in the 7,
Yeah.
we horse traded, and then you
no.
purchased. Right, but I'm saying
They're gone. They got shredded. But I did start with them.
That's what I'm saying. You started with your junkyard $50 seat.
We used them for like a year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So your budget is blown. Just on what you've already said, you're at 40. Done. All right, I'm going to the dealership, and I am ordering a 2.0 turbo base model with Sport S.
Okay.
So I guess that's,
One step up from base.
So he's
but
buying
yeah.
a motor, a frame, and a body.
Yes.
Yes. And I really want to buy it in
Crank windows?
two-door.
Power windows.
So here's the problem: is I'm too bougie. I need my power windows.
Yeah. So you're
I
in
should.
45.
I don't think so. I think we're
Yours
at,
truck was 38 with crank windows.
Yeah, and that was cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it was cheap.
I'm buying a Wrangler.
He's buying the Wrangler.
I'm buying the
know.
Wrangler.
I still think he's 42 to 45.
I think we're at 38.
You said 2-door though.
See, I think I want but see, this is the problem. Is why I need to have the power windows. Is now I'm in a 4-door. If I'm gonna do a 2-door, then I'll do the cranks.
I
And
think
struggle.
you're over 40.
I struggle. All right, I'm
Sports.
gonna go with.
I think he's at 45 myself.
I want to be
Yeah.
the cool guy who still is like 2 doors for life, and I'm not.
No.
I'm not.
Welcome to the minivan clan.
I
Yeah.
know. I know. And I love my LJ. Don't get me wrong. And my kids are fantastic about crawling in and out of the LJ.
Totally.
And I actually think I prefer how a 2-door JL looks on, kind of stretched and slung. But
Yeah.
But I struggle because
I totally like a 2-door hardtop, but I got to tell you, a 4-door Rambler really makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go. I've got basically Jen's Jeep, but in a 2-door, or in a 4-door, or 2.0 turbo.
Okay.
So
I'd still say you're at 42 to 45.
we'll go 42. We'll
Okay.
go 42. That's fine.
That's after he negotiated it down a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Let's go with 42.
I'm not signing anything.
Wow, shots fired. I don't sign contracts. So if you're listening in, that's an actual tactic I use.
Yes.
So if you're unfamiliar, that is how I work. But
So the Foursquare
aside-
method doesn't work on you.
No. All right. So we're at 42,000, and hopefully we're happy when we leave the dealership. My grandfather was always okay with just. He didn't need to be friends with that person he was buying
No, it
something
was always
from.
a stressful event when
It was
I went. My dad.
stressful. That's right. They were there to
Ugh.
beat that guy up.
Yes.
Uh,
Swearing was
Kristen
happening.
feels the same way about going to a dealership with me. So
yeah. So I'm trying to leave. Not dehumanizing the individual in the process.
Paying 45 then.
Well, he's got kids, and it's around
No.
Christmas. And
No.
yeah, you're a sucker. You're
All
paying
right.
45.
No. I'm back to 42. All right. So I'm coming in, and we're doing tons.
Yeah, axles are gone.
Axles are gone. I don't care. And I'm gonna do the ARBs in my
'Cause he
tons.
likes to do stuff hard because of extra clumping pressure.
Extra clumping pressure. I'm doing ARBs because I'm going to do onboard air as well. But so I'm going to do tons. Ultimate Dana 60s, front and rear. I'm going to do right now. I'm going to do an Iron Rock long arm upgrade. I'm going to use somebody's 4.5-inch coils. I am reasonably.
And you got to buy the chip.
The Super Chips XT. So, yeah, absolutely.
That's required.
So let's say the tons are going to run me at that point in time with the ARBs 18. So I'm at 60 with the tons. The suspension is going to run me about $3,000. So I'm 63 on the long arm upgrade and somebody's 4.5-inch coils. I'm going to chop the heck out of the rear wheel well opening
Mm-hmm.
and run fender deletes.
Ooh.
In general.
Yep.
So I'm not even worried about
Just wad up that warranty.
out the door. Don't care. Don't care.
Probably work that in on the thing. I'm not. Can I buy without the warranty?
Can I buy without the don't even offer that to me.
Yeah.
And because I'm gonna juggle him, Sport S starting price is
Correct.
$38,395. So
I know.
42
never
is
seen-
actually he got a couple
Never seen
upgrades
one
on
on
it.
the lot for 38.
Well, no, because they always put their customer preferred packages on it.
Correct. But if you go in and you order it yourself and if you toe the line,
Yeah, you can get 42.
You can get 42.
I feel pretty confident that he could actually have a couple nice amenities added to it at 42 still.
yep,
Yeah.
100%. Because
I'm
I
still buying a
obsessively
Rubicon.
look all the time. What's that?
I'm still buying a Rubicon.
No.
if I
Why
want
buy
to.
the Rubicon?
Why buy the Ruby? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So wait a second.
'Cause
I'm
I'll
at
get
about
good 10 years out of it.
I'm
that
about
way.
65. Okay, I'm about 65 in. I'm gonna buy an Atlas.
Scott Bennett chimed in and said, I'm going to have to do more upgrades so Neil can pay for these upgrades.
I'm here for you, Scott. Let's start as soon as you're ready. No, I was gonna say I'm
And
putting an Atlas
Daddy,
in.
Daddy Jeep wants to know why you didn't go electric.
Why didn't I go electric?
That's a good question.
It is a great question. So the real absolute reason of it is right now there is no aftermarket support for telling the computer that you have re-geared it. So there is there is not sufficient aftermarket support.
We're in the
right
in
now-
the dark ages right now.
We're
with
right
that.
now in the dark ages of it. So if this is something I actually wanted to use with say 538 gears on it, right now there's a handful of guys in like Greenland and other.
And we're on a budget. If you didn't have a budget, then you could figure it out.
Totally right, and so there's so Fred Williams on Dirt Every Day had some insider secret, and he had if you watch his when they were doing the 4xe, they have a laptop. That's so to get access to a laptop industry insider piece. If they say it's a laptop build or you're a laptop guy, that means that you actually have the blessing of the mothership themselves, and they are there with one of their interface electrical engineers
Yeah.
who is
Doing dark magic.
They're typing in code and talking to that specific vehicle. When it gets filtered down for the everyday average aftermarket enthusiast, that's why we end up with say,
No
Super Chips
laptop
or
for you.
Taser. No laptop. And realistically, unfortunately, we're just not a laptop business at this point. And that's
my build doesn't need one.
and to this point, we really haven't needed them. But there are a handful of aftermarket manufacturers that are laptop businesses, and good
Still
for
don't
them.
have the mothership laptop though.
And no, they don't. They're going in and out, and they're trying to break codes, and they're bricking things out in the process, and they've got money to buy another computer, and so on and so forth.
Try again.
So that's the only reason I didn't go with the hybrid electric, because otherwise, and I think that's why Rob is asking. I would.
Do they still make it with the e-assist on the 2.0 turbo?
They do have e-assist on the 2.0 turbo. Still, I believe, but
I mean, it's
would.
hard to beat that.
It is, but my only challenge is you add a whole bunch of those cooling lines and skidding and all that kind of stuff.
Believe me, I know. But still,
but our customer base might not.
The amount of power that has, and this is coming from a guy who just put a junkyard 360 in his
in
build.
his Jeepster, right? His Commando.
It's hard not to respect.
It's hard not to. So, and then the Super Chips XT. I mean, that's less than $1,000, and it unleashes just
crazy,
silly horsepower.
Yes, out of a 4-cylinder.
If you followed along with any of the Tech Tuesday or Jeff's Live last week, you know that we have a 2.0 turbo Jeep in. And it has a Super Chips XT, and it previously had 40s on it. Well, it's going to have 40s again on it, and it can actually break free those 40s on dry pavement and spin them up, which is unbelievable, right?
Yeah. And what gears did he have before?
He had 488s.
Yeah, so
before.
actually not optimized for
Correct.
40s.
Correct.
Still broke them loose.
Correct. We're not talking sitting there like good old American horsepower with
No.
the Camaro. But
totally spinning them off the line.
But would spin them off the line, and then they grip up pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I'm $68,000 in with
Haven't
the
bought
Atlas.
tires yet.
Oh, totes. So I'm gonna come in.
So how much are those 42s, 45s, or whatever?
44s. I'm going at the
Mickey Thompson
44s. They're $1,000 a piece.
Ooh.
So that just ate up $5,000.
So we're at $5,000. So we're at
Not including wheels.
What wheels are we putting them on?
I'm smitten with the Dirty Life roadkills that we have in right now.
Those are pretty cool.
And
that's a budget way of going.
So they're and I could even go more budget, right? We could go Humvee wheels, and I'm just not doing that.
No.
So I'm gonna go with the Dirty Life roadkills. So that's gonna chunk up another $2,800. So it's 75, 76 ish. Let's be generous in the budget a little bit.
Yep.
So there's wheels, tires.
And the benefit to all this is he's not paying someone to.
There's
install
no labor.
It. There's no labor.
Yeah.
Because if I'm an end user,
he would
I'm
have
a
maxed
customer.
his budget out already.
If I'm an end
that's
user,
true.
I'm a customer. I'm done. I'm tapped.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
But he still doesn't have bumpers.
Yep.
Or a winch.
Yep. What winch are you putting on that?
There's other winches out there besides 8274s.
He said those words.
That's why I'm asking what you're putting on.
And to be honest, his would look okay with a regular winch. Mine needs an 8274 that I can't afford it.
I can't.
But
run
we
it.
know
I
he
can't-
wants the 8274.
I can't run the 8274 because it's not weight rated sufficiently for that heavy JL on 44s.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if you did not catch this, the entire build would be geared towards sucking 44 Mickey Thompson MTs up under the Jeep and then them actually being optimized to use it. Because I made the stark, unfortunate reality that Chuck, when I stuffed him out, and just a testament to this business and the good work that we do, it is within sheets of paper. I would argue perfect functionality where it sucks those 40s up into the fenders, turn radius when it's stuffed and all that kind of stuff. Without reworking the entire body structure of Chuck, I can't fit bigger than the 44s.
Yeah.
You know, and I've already invested so much in armor.
It's my JK with 40s. I can't go the 40s without re-engineering the whole Jeep.
Totally.
Yep.
So the goal would be to set out and buy not quite a full stripper package, but a fair, affordable new model purchase, and then put it with tons 44s and a just a gnarly crawl ratio.
Yep.
Right. Take that 2.0 turbo, because the advantage if you're so the 4xe has better initial torque typically. The 2.0 turbo likes a little more R's, which is where the e-assist is of value because you have that low end entry. But ultimately, once you throw that through an Atlas, it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think I need to triple stick the Atlas. I would be perfectly fine double sticking it. But a lot of our customers choose the triple stick, and there is something really cool about that, like a 12-to-1 final drive.
Yeah.
It takes up a lot of room. 4-door, it might have it, it might not. I don't 100% know. But I'm pushing at that point in time, tires, wheels, axles, gears. You know what I didn't put on there? A light bar.
Yep.
Still not going to.
Yeah. What about lockers?
The ARBs.
ARBs.
And
I
actually,
missed that
with
part
that
'cause I
said,
was researching.
I would have to put ARB double compressor.
Yep.
And we have that really trick mount on the 2.0 turbo. See, this is where the problem with the e-assist comes in.
Yep.
I'd want to put it up under that driver's side fender well, and that would be a really hard. So I'd either have to put it in the cabin with me under the passenger
That's
seat.
where it's going.
That's where it's going. If I have to go e-assist.
Yeah, it's got to go there.
And that point we have onboard air, and it's plumbed for the ARBs. I'm going to go with a couple high quality rigid, or maybe a couple of the high quality Holley glass lookalikes. I want to have a little couple throwback, touches to it. I can't have everything that's super modern and sleek. And then I'm going to build this, and I'm not going to get to use it. So that's just.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
That's. I watched
But you
a
can
bunch of people.
daily it on 44s.
And it's your Swiss Army knife at that point.
Yep.
All right.
It's your Swiss Army knife.
Let's transition over to product spotlight now.
All right.
Move on.
And now it's time for our product spotlight.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Spotlight.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Well, Neil just talked about this product a lot,
A lot.
and that is an Ultimate Dana 60. And we are one-tonning a JLUR,
And it's spectacular.
and
right?
it's awesome.
And so we have obviously we're well acquainted with tons.
Yep.
We've
And how
built,
not to do them.
we built plenty of axles ourselves.
Just to flip back, two comments just came in. One was Chuck, poor life decisions. I love my light bar though. And then Scott said, if you're going this far, why not go overland?
Well, and ultimately a nice rooftop tent, and there's room for some appropriate light bars. That's fine. And honestly, Chuck has a really cool light bar with the KC.
Yeah, if you have
unit
the
that he
light
has.
bar, that's the way to light bar.
Yeah, and ultimately the problem with Overland and my particular build would be the 44s. Most overlanding rigs in North America have a more appropriate tire choice. My tire choice is simply trying to make up for insecurities and inadequacies in my own life. Whereas, an overlanding rig really has 35s or 37s.
I almost said it'd be more capable on smaller tires, but he just did it for me.
Oh, absolutely. And by the time you put that rooftop tent up there, you know what I mean?
You're not going anywhere.
You're not going.
So
So
tall.
the 44s, it's just too big at that point. And honestly,
He'll be taking out more bridges with a.
what? Who?
Never-
Bridges?
nothing.
That never happened. That never happened. What Ford Thunderbird, dear? That's just not. So
High lift jacks never hit a
Pennsylvania
bridge.
State Highway. Don't ask any questions.
Put this over here.
Let's go back to that product. I'm sorry for derailing us.
No, I was gonna say last piece. I actually I live vicariously through a lot of people through our social media content, and some of your most capable overland rigs are not the tunned out and 40 Jeeps. They're more your average size tire that can go on state and federal off-road trails or off highway vehicle use. In some areas, the bigger tires, 40 plus, aren't even allowed on the trails because they'll tear up the trail so bad.
Yeah.
So if you are considering an overland or going to drag a trailer behind your Jeep, you might not want to go to 40s or bigger. And that's just, I think that's a great question or great statement on Scott's, Scott, our viewer, listener, friend, and customer, on his behalf, and why we wouldn't go overland with a build that big.
Well, and then Ken just chimed in, said 32s or 33s for overlanding fuel mileage, maybe 35s max. And then Chuck asked about that JLUR we're building right now and wants to see video of it.
So back to the hashtag not sponsored segment of our portion, and what we were saying was that we've done tons, and I could totally get amped up, and maybe sometime we will talk just entirely about tons, maybe. Junkyard axles don't make sense.
Unless you're building a Jeepster for no money.
And
And
still
you
doesn't
want to
make
spend
sense.
and you
Still
want to
makes
spend
no
more time
sense.
broken down than
True.
than driving.
Yep.
So dollar for dollar, a engineered axle. That means that an aftermarket manufacturer with a reasonable R&D team, and that's not to say that they have all the answers in the world. That's just not accurate.
Yep.
But more so when they set out to create a consistent and replicable product. That is where dollar for dollar is going to make sense. They're making these down an assembly line. They're a specialty product.
Yep.
So it's not like
And they fit them in a Jeep or two before they sell them.
right. They're not like they're watered down. They're not a bag of chips that mainly air and a little bit of bag, and you're sending a gajillion of them down the assembly line. You're sending enough down the assembly line that they need to make that process efficient and quote unquote affordable enough for the individual who would actually be purchasing it. Their target market is not the mass consumer market. It's a niche market. It's a specialty piece. So engineered axles, and there's very few manufacturers who actually have it. Dana Spicer is our leading granddaddy of axle manufacturing in the United States and globally, arguably. Curry Enterprises and then Dynatrac are your three primary reputable axle manufacturers. Honestly, secret, most people are using a Curry housing. That's just the reality of the situation. They paid for a mold, a casting mold, many years ago. They've continued to tool out their business to make that make sense. So Dana makes their own axles and has their own production process. Curry makes physical axle components in their process. And then a lot of other manufacturers, when we get into some of the mid-grade axle providers who have tons and those types of tons and 44s, they're actually buying a Curry or a Curry knockoff or an overseas, reverse engineered type housing. So what we're focusing on are the Ultimate 60s. The Ultimate Axle program was something that was released a decade ago. So in the grand scheme of the aftermarket industry, this is very, very small. I would argue that in the hot rod industry, we've been able to do 9-inch rear ends and 12 bolts or 10 bolts or whatever
Yep.
for eons.
Yeah.
And there's aftermarket manufacturers who are building custom housings for drag race and race applications.
Yep.
In our off-road industry, that only started 10 years ago. So for hot rods and cars, we've been able to do it for
easy 50 years.
easily 50 years at least. And that's an aftermarket. Open up a catalog, order out of the Sears, Sears Roebuck catalog and send an axle to our house.
Yep.
In the off-road industry, we were basically kind of a transition from that.
Yep.
And we had a bunch of independent axle builders just kind of tooling out some interesting stuff.
Using hot rod parts in different
Using
ways.
hot rod parts in different ways, exactly. And our aftermarket axle programs really only got hot and busy
With
10,
the
15
JK.
with the JK.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because previously we were still doing, Wagoneer 44s in YJs,
Everything.
TJs, XJs, 9-bolt or, Ford 9s,
Yep.
Ford 88s,
Yep.
a bunch of those mid-size stuff. So what the Ultimate Axle program did was actually from Granddaddy himself, Dana Spicer. They actually they gave a couple individuals, but specifically there's a friend of ours. They said, hey, take your gloves off and just go bare knuckle fight.
All the things that you wanted to do, but the OE wouldn't let you do,
Yep.
do it.
Do it. It kind of like it gives authority to that lunatic fringe of years past, right? The thing those guys wanted to do that then had to get scaled back for OE production.
Yep.
They said, hey, we're actually going to do this and we're going to offer it to the aftermarket.
Yep.
Which is just wicked cool. So largely the parts are supposed to be bolt-in friendly.
Mhm.
They're supposed to have appropriate tone rings for ABS functionality. That's one of the big issues with our newer JKJL traction control systems is that
They get angry.
they get angry.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a junkyard build, and
Yeah.
so you have to have an engineered axle so that the tone ring
And you
is
can do the
appropriate.
other way, but there's a lot more work, a lot more making things work.
Correct.
And a lot of other stuff you have to buy and engineer to make it work.
100%. 100%. So, cat's out of the bag. We have this JLUR specs on it. It is a 2.0 turbo. It has onboard air. If you followed much of our coverage, you would have seen this Jeep with us before.
Yep.
And
He had an
ultimately,
incident and it made it come back.
yeah, he had an incident. He wheeled it hard. He's solidly bitten by the bug. His expectation out of his vehicle, and
It's ramped.
And
up.
suction was a big factor. He got stuck in the mud, and the suction.
He
He
got-
said that was the first time he's ever experienced a suction like that.
yeah, so he gets sucked down into local
quagmire.
off-road park. Yep, and quagmire of it. May or may not have got high centered in the process. Might have been suction related. He had switched his tires for the winter, so he was not on his big 40s at the time.
On 37s.
But on the 37s, yeah.
But they're all terrains.
Yeah, AT 37s, and he was trying to pass through a mud hole, and he compromised the rear axle in the process.
Yep. So then
So-
at that point, you have to look at your decisions you've made.
Yep.
And your options.
Yep.
Of
How
what to
how
do.
do I intend to continue using this vehicle? What is my expectation out of it?
Yep.
What are my resources? Right. I bought an idea, and now where am I at in that idea?
Yep.
And for him, it made sense to continue going further and putting the 1 tons for increased robust nature of them.
And-
Everything is just better on that.
It's just hard to beat. I mean, the brakes that are on this axle, we got the rear hung in the Jeep, and the caliper is physically larger than my hand.
Yes.
Just the caliper is bigger than my hand.
Right.
And they're fully loaded. They have rotors on them. They have calipers. Said they have the tone rings already set up for it. You just need your sensors out of the old axles. And they physically bolt in to your current control arms and that kind of stuff. There is some little things that need to change here and there. But for the most part, they are bolted in. One thing I thought was kind of interesting in the instructions, original JLJT tie rod will not work. Most aftermarket JK tie rods will work.
Isn't that interesting?
And they've literally worked with Steer Smarts, which is a name we've used quite often, for a bolt-in steering kit for the UD60. And obviously, one of the nice things about this, they've done the homework for you. There is part numbers, there is recommendations, there's even the parts used on the axle. So say something fails, which I want video.
Yeah, right. I want to know. I want video of exactly when
They
that-
have
what
all the
happens.
part numbers, so you can easily go and source them, even down to the brake pads.
Wow.
It's just awesome.
So with that, as you've been installing them, Scott, I know that you found some differences or some issues that you've run into unexpectedly. What are some of those things?
So the biggest thing on the rear axle that we've encountered is the e-brake system is completely different than the factory. We were actually pulling them forward instead of off to the side. So you have to source some new cables. Now, with that said, they're very reasonably priced. I think they're like $30-40 a cable.
Sure.
So, and they're a Dorman part number they gave us. I don't know what they originally fit.
Right.
But it was easy, 1 day order. We actually got them this morning, and I ordered them right before
The new
our
year.
break.
Yeah.
So I think that's very reasonable. There is some interior disassembly just with the nature of the newer Jeeps, where the seats and the console and all that has to come out, and we do need some. I'll say fabric cobble, but it's the nicest fabric cobble you ever found.
Right.
Because they literally give you McMaster part numbers of you need this piece of all thread, and you need this nut, and you need this, and you need that to connect all that together.
Interesting.
So they've done the homework. They figured it out. They are the ones that spent days scratching their heads.
Sure.
And well, we'll try this. Oh, that won't work. Okay, we'll try that. And now they've given you the roadmap to success. You just have to do it.
Yep.
In the front, the steering I am concerned about a little bit, but we're not there yet. We'll see.
Right.
We sometimes ignore what instructions tell us and try our own. We
Sure.
want to get proved wrong.
Sure.
But I am a little worried about that. But for all intents and purposes, it is a bolt-in option.
What about the sensors?
So sensors, you do have to remove your brake components on the original ones to get your old sensors out because they're in the hub bearings. And you do have to take the brakes off the front axle, caliper, and rotor to put the new sensor in, which is one thing I did not know before we started this build.
Sure.
It's not undoable, but there's the bolts on the front caliper are literally like that big around. They're huge.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
might have to
interesting.
have Jeff help me team lift the caliper off.
team lift the caliper.
Yep.
They're big.
That is cool. Well, and they're intended to be full size. I remember years ago talking with a friend who was one of the motorsports engineers there. And honestly, we've developed friendships with most of their team. You can find some of those videos on our YouTube channel, on the SFJ 4x4 TV channel, where we've talked with them at different SEMA events or out at on the road at shows. But one of the interesting things, a friend at the time who was employed there, he said, he's talking to people about the process. And he was kind of frustrated because he basically kind of was under the impression people are like that their fingers should snap and it should be identical, and it should be when you say bolt in, this means you're not welding on full,
Yeah.
You're not pulling a junkyard axle out from
Yes.
underneath a 79 Ford F350
And now let's make it work.
and now let's make it work.
Yep.
We're starting at that devil in the detail stage.
Yep. And it really
making
depends
it-
on build by build. It's choices you've made previously that now will they work or will not work with the new product you purchased.
100%.
If you're starting from scratch or earlier in your build, then you just make the choices that better support this axle.
And that's why in my own storyline of the $100,000 budget,
First thing,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's an engineered, right? And that's the whole problem with my Jeep Chuck Norris is it was
engineered a different way.
engineered a different way. I knew what tons we were going to use.
Yep.
And what tire size we were going to use.
And that's with anything. If you decide that suddenly you need a jacuzzi tub in your tiny house,
yeah.
not going to fit in the
Not
bathroom.
not fitting.
If I suddenly decide I'm going to stuff a big block Chevy in my 36 Ford, I got some issues.
You got issues. You're going to have to figure it out, you
Yeah.
know? And you might not be able to do it would be the other question. So,
What is that?
all right, folks, we're going to move this along. I don't know. We've got weird noises. The purge may or may not be starting in the studio here.
I don't know if
Uh,
it came across the mics, but
we
that was weird.
That was weird. We're going to have to
I
investigate.
blame Neil.
I
That's definitely
blame
Neil.
the buck stops here, so I'll take it. Folks, this is our first podcast of the new year 2023. I really hope you guys hung out through it. We appreciate the commentary, being part of our G family that's logged on, from buying ideas to being invested in your projects to managing your finances to to big goals, dreams, and aspirations, to the actual physical process of engineering your build from the get-go to the actual products that makes it get there, is all that kind of cool content that we hope that we're bringing to you as part of our automotive family. There's so many cool things happening here, so make sure you join us on Facebook or on Instagram. You can catch our lives. Head over to the SFJ 4x4 TV. Get all of the very cool YouTube videos from our event coverage, our local clubs that that we try to support in the best way possible, and some of our in-house activities that are always ideally infotainment for your viewing and listening pleasure. If you are joining us, if you're one of those incredibly valuable people who has made it this long through the podcast, thank you so much for making this podcast one of the most successful podcasts registered on Buzzsprout at this time. And there's very few of those host companies out there. So you have made this what it is, and we thank you for that. Think about logging out and giving us a review. It's always interesting to see what people's takes are on that. Also, head over to sfj4x4.com. You can buy one of these cool stickers that goes directly to supporting this podcast. I really appreciate when people take pictures of these stickers on their laptop, on their beer fridge, on their tumblers, all that kind of stuff. Post it back to us. That's fun to see that level of support. You can also get yourself some really cool shirts, the I Speak Jeep podcast shirt, or any of our other really gnarly gear. Also, I am representing on my own shirt. Sometimes people understand it, sometimes they don't. I've got a little back burner project that we're endeavoring into here, thanks to the support of the guys here on the creative end, and then on the Savage behind the camera and his skill set on the computer and process. So we've got some really cool stuff in store for you in the coming year. Make sure you curb out this time, 10:19 a.m. on Mondays, if you can join us. Otherwise, put us in your ear hole for your next big, long commute, and we appreciate your support.
And if you'd like to see what the shop's about, then tune in to our Tuesday updates
Absolutely.
on YouTube and on Facebook. And make sure you watch our YouTube videos.
And if you're local, come in. Stop in for a tour. We'll tell you what's going on.
We'll give you a
kind of-
5-cent tour.
Got your 5-cent tour. All right, Jeep family, we got work to do. Jeep on.
Jeep
Keep
on.
on.